my gosh. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to Transform Your Nights, Transform Your Life, the Ginger Sage way to reclaim restorative sleep. We're so excited that you're here to join us today. I've got Shania with us, and we're going to be talking about how you can start sleeping better starting tonight.
Thank you so much for being here. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. And I would love to focus on a few of the reasons why sleep is so important. In this day and age, it's very common for people to not get enough sleep. Maybe maybe because you have too much to do, but oftentimes it's because we struggle with sleeping. I know for many, many years, I mitigated the importance of sleep and I was just too busy. I was a single mom and I wasn't able to take the time to sleep. But now that I truly understand how important sleep is, I always prioritize this. So I want to focus a little bit on why sleep is so important. Number one, energy, cellular energy. So during sleep, regeneration of our mitochondria occurs. And mitochondria is basically the powerhouse of our cells. Basically, it's where ATP or our cellular energy is produced. During this time, growth hormone also is released, and this helps the body repair and regenerate itself and also promotes energy. Another reason why sleep is so important is for mental focus and for mood. Getting adequate sleep actually is needed for the brain to just cleanse itself and to be able to support overall cognitive function. So, getting, solid sleep, at least 7 hours a night would be great. Um, Another really important reason why we need to sleep is for our immune systems. Adequate sleep is necessary for our immune system. Certain proteins are formed during our sleep, and hormones are released that actually activate the immune system. And certain cytokines, they're actually chemical messengers, and those are actually released while we sleep as well. And the chemical messengers tell our immune system what our immune system needs to be doing. Lastly, we need to sleep for repair and recovery. This is the most important time for our tissues to regenerate, our cells to regenerate, our muscles experience greater blood flow, our lymph fluid actually increases in volume. And so more lymph fluid is circulating. So this is really an important time for our body to regenerate so that we can wake up without all the aches and pains. Um, Hormonal balance will also be improved as we sleep, blood sugar regulation, metabolic health, our cortisol. So there's all sorts of different hormones that are basically regenerated while we sleep.
Well, thank you for that. That's super helpful. In fact, makes me like more stressed out that I'm not sleeping. And I think maybe that's the problem is probably a lot of people here today in the class, they want to sleep better. They know it's important. And heck, maybe even just they probably didn't understand all of those things that sleep maybe helps them do and the benefits, but they just know that like they're an ornery, grumpy person when they don't get enough sleep. And, that could be just the only thing is I want to be able to feel like I have energy or be more productive, have more clarity of thought. But to understand that there's all these other health implications you know, that go on if you're not getting sufficient sleep, that actually adds to my stress that I'm not sleeping. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
well, and that's the last thing I want to do right now because stress is one of the most significant reasons why one might have trouble sleeping. So, we're here to talk about I'm totally here to support, you know, how to help you get a better night's sleep, how to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and get into deep sleep. But I definitely don't want you to stress about it because, cortisol is one of the stress hormones in our body and it's so important. We can't live without cortisol. But too much cortisol will cause a lot of problems in our body, whether it's problems with our metabolism and thyroid, but it'll also cause problems within our energy levels and circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm is basically like the 24-hour cycle that our body goes through. And it's an interplay between cortisol and melatonin. So when we awake, we experience what's known as the cortisol awakening effect. And that kind of cortisol surges in the morning. And that is what gives us the energy to wake up in the morning. And, it kind of ebbs and flows throughout the day. We have a little bit of a low in the mid-afternoon, which is why some people experience that mid-afternoon crash. But the lowest will be when we're sleeping, and that is when, melatonin starts to rise. So as it gets dark, melatonin will start to rise. Of course, there's some things that can block melatonin production, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But when our cortisol is off balance, especially because we're very stressed out, then that will cause problems within our circadian rhythm, and we might have problems falling asleep or staying asleep. So I'm definitely excited to give you all
Yeah.
some really good lifestyle tips and some tips and tricks so that we don't let stress get to us when we're trying to fall asleep.
Okay, awesome. I love that. So, when I think about people that have trouble sleeping, I know like we talked about there's like trouble falling asleep, and then there's maybe another category that's I wake up and I can't get back to sleep, or multiple awakenings. And then, I mean, if there was a third category, could it be like I feel like I sleep, but I don't wake up feeling rest and refreshed? Maybe like I just don't feel like I got into a deep sleep. If you were to talk about like the common sleep problems, and I know there's probably a lot, but what we classify as like insomnia or I just can't sleep. Is that how you look at the breakdown?
Definitely. I would say, 2 to 3 major categories, well, definitely 3 major categories. So, the first would be trouble falling asleep. The second would be trouble staying asleep, and usually that's like the middle of the night, awakening, which is maybe 1 AM, 2 AM. And then the third would be just the restless sleep, like you never actually feel like you've fallen into a deep sleep. And the causes of some of these will overlap, but there are some unique causes to trouble falling asleep versus trouble staying asleep. And I can go through those if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we definitely do. Do you think that is it typical that a person has all of these problems that you see, or is it usually like they have one or the other? They kind of all interplay. So I'm trying to think of people in our class going through the course right now. Could they easily say, "Oh, this is me," or "I have all those problems," or what do you typically see?
Like, are, are you saying like, do people have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and restless sleep?
Yeah, or is
Yes,
it typically like just one of them, then like, "Oh, this is me. I just have trouble falling asleep. Once I'm asleep, I can sleep forever." Or I'm imagining it's maybe varied from person to person.
for sure. So basically, a consult that we had just today was a woman who's had insomnia for around 30 years. And she basically fell into all of the categories: trouble falling asleep, that middle of the night awakening. And then after that middle of the night awakening, feeling like she never goes back into a deep sleep.
Got
So
it.
basically, she had all three of them, which is it can be tough and it can mean that there's a lot of things going on, but it's not unsolvable.
Oh, that's always good to hear. It's not unsolvable. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the complexities of sleep and why, when we talk about all the different things that are supplementation, lifestyle changes, basically Ginger Sage can help people with to achieve overall wellness. We often say that sleep is kind of the more complex because there's so many layers of the onion. And it's like when we think of sleep, it's like this symphony. And you've mentioned just in the benefits that there's like all of the hormone stuff going on and stress. And so let's start breaking down why is sleep so complex, and let's go through that part.
Yeah. I before I jump into that, I was just gonna mention that a lot of the problems that happen with sleep, I find are vicious cycles.
Okay.
So basically, for instance, without adequate sleep, you're not going to have adequate cellular energy. But without adequate cellular energy, you cannot have adequate sleep because the neurotransmitters have to be produced. So it can be easy to get into this vicious cycle. Same with a digestion. If you do not have the proper gut bacteria to produce serotonin, GABA, certain neurotransmitters, which we'll go into, to help you fall asleep, then you're not going to sleep. But the less you sleep, the more stress you're under, then the poorer your gut health is, and the less chance of your gut bacteria producing these neurotransmitters. So, sleep you can easily get, and same with cortisol levels, stress levels, because when you're not sleeping, your stress levels increase, and it's very easy to get into vicious cycles with sleep.
I think that's really true what you just said. I have a really good friend who depended on alcohol to sleep. And then because of the alcohol dependency, then I guess they were drinking. Well, actually, she thought that the problem was her caffeine intake. She was drinking a lot of caffeine to get through the days because she didn't feel like she was sleeping well. But then at night, because of the caffeine, to kind of dull that down, she would have to drink. And that was the only way to get to sleep. And it was this vicious cycle that, and I could see how that would happen. And when I had my children, I remember one of mine was a terrible sleeper. And so I thought, well, maybe if I don't let him take a nap, then at night he'll go to sleep better. And I read this sleep doctor book and he was like, sleep begets sleep. It's not logical, it's biological. And so the fact that I was trying to have him miss the nap, thinking that then he'd be more tired, was actually complicating the problem because the nap would have helped him get more rhythmic sleeping so that he wanted to sleep more at night. So I think helping people understand that it's not their fault, they're not broken, they're in a vicious cycle, and we can help stop it, that there's hope. I think that's really great news for people in the class.
Definitely. One more story myself. So my third baby, when I was 26, she did not sleep through the night for 2 years. And I was so sleep deprived that when she did start sleeping, I couldn't sleep no matter what. And that is because my circadian rhythm or my biological clock was completely off. And I know that that's happened to a lot of people too, and that's just it is. It's very rhythmic. We have these like innate, just intelligent biological clocks, and that's why people who have shift work, they work through the night. They really do struggle with falling asleep without help.
Okay, so let's
That
go back and for all of the people here today, let's talk about some of the reasons that make it difficult to fall asleep. And then we'll walk through each category, keep staying asleep and getting that deep restorative sleep. If you want to just dive in there.
perfect. All right, so I'm going to first start with trouble falling asleep. Some of the common causes that one might have trouble falling asleep would be the racing mind. We live in this go-go society. We have so much to do. You might be worried or anxious about something, and you might just be unable to fall asleep and relax. The second cause of having trouble falling asleep could be exposure to too much blue light before bed. So, this basically will trick the brain into thinking it's not time to go to bed. So, it will block the production of melatonin. Another thing that could make it hard to fall asleep is intense exercise before bed. Basically, increased heart rate, increased cortisol levels will also suppress melatonin. I know sometimes I like to play pickleball really late at night, and then I get home and I'm just excited and I don't feel tired. So I try to be mindful of when I exercise just because it can be hard to fall asleep when you have, high cortisol levels. Too much caffeine. We talked about this a little bit. This basically is overstimulation of your nervous system. It puts you into a fight or flight state, which is also known as the sympathetic stimulation. And this can also lead to high cortisol levels. And this can also basically disrupt your circadian rhythm and suppress melatonin. Another common cause could be hormone imbalance. It could be thyroid imbalance. It could be adrenal gland imbalance. I don't know how many of you have heard of adrenal fatigue. It is more common now just because of how much stress everybody's under. So, this can be a common cause as well. A couple other things, nutrient deficiencies, especially micronutrients like magnesium, iron, copper. Um, vitamin A, all those things. And then of course stress, just plain stress. And we will get into stress a little bit more and how stress can come from so many different sources, not just emotional sources. The last cause that I wanted to cover would be certain medications. There's certain medications that will make it difficult to fall asleep. Um, and trouble staying asleep
Well, let's stop
has
right after that. This is the
okay.
falling asleep. I just had some questions or clarifications on falling asleep. So I know, like, I'm pretending I'm a student in the class. I know that I'm having trouble falling asleep. You just read through that list, and I was thinking there's some things I'm definitely doing that might be the culprit. Like, I do tend to sometimes exercise late at night, and maybe that is, I need to back that off. But how would I know, like, on my thyroid or adrenals? Like, is there a way for me to diagnose or troubleshoot, or how do I start to know what of those pieces could be contributing to that problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes it takes a little bit of detection work because our bodies are so complicated and it's most of the time is not just one thing. For instance, if you are going through chronic stress, then that has most likely led to some type of an adrenal fatigue, which has possibly led to some kind of a thyroid disorder, which has possibly led to some kind of a hormonal disorder, like if you're a female, maybe an estrogen dominant problem.
Well,
So
can
this
I ask
some
a question really quick? And sorry to keep interrupting. If
Yep,
it's
it's
something
okay.
like stress, like let's say I don't have a stressful job. So I know like a lot of times I'm stressed at work or, the kids are probably stressed, but like, so if I had none of that, that's what I think of when I think of stress.
Yeah, and this is I definitely want to mention that stress can come from so many different things, and stress is not just emotional or psychological because you think of stress as like, yeah, you had a bad fight with your husband or you have a really difficult job, you're in a traffic jam and everyone's angry, but stress can come from so many different things. Stress can come from um, chemicals and environmental aspects such as EMF exposure, pesticides, herbicides, endocrine disrupting chemicals, plastics, like all those things, if they end up in our body, they can cause stress. Stress can come from nutritional deficiencies, especially micronutrient deficiencies. Our body runs on enzymes, like 9,000 enzymes. And minerals basically run the show. Minerals are cofactors for every single enzymatic reaction that happens in the body. So if you have a mineral deficiency, then it's going to be stressful for the body because the body has to compensate. And what's interesting there is to take it even a step further. The more stress you're under, usually the more minerals you lose. Like magnesium, your magnesium burn rate increases dramatically when you're under stress, but you need magnesium. Magnesium is necessary to soothe and calm the nervous system, and as well as like thousands of other things in the body. Magnesium is incredibly important. Um, One other thing that people don't often think about when it comes to stress in the body is surgery. Surgery causes a lot of stress, anesthesia, medications, all those things actually create physical stress to the body as well, even injuries.
Great. Yeah.
And one other thing that I think is really interesting is if you have low adrenals, if your adrenals are very weak and you're not making the hormones that the adrenal glands normally make, or not enough of them, um, you will most likely get sick a little bit more often than other people, like respiratory problems, definitely like allergies, coughs, even maybe bronchitis, things like that. And the interesting thing is that every time you get a respiratory infection, it stresses your body and will stress your adrenals more. So it's another one of those vicious cycles. And we're gonna have another class all about stress and how to mitigate stress. especially how to mitigate the side effects when you're dealing with stress.
Oh, sounds like I need that class. So you just kind of blew my mind because I came into the class thinking that, it'd be like, all right, you know, don't exercise at night, maybe some nutritional stuff that I need to do. But I just now realize there's things that may be happening inside my body that I'm not even aware of that are causing and impacting my ability to sleep. So I appreciate you expanding on that. I think that's super helpful. And I want to let people know in the class that we have in the downloadable area, you'll see our checklist for Sleepwise sleep guide, where all the things that we're talking about, we've put on a handy little download. So you can kind of check through and look for where, oh, okay, this is something I need to change. It's kind of like the lifestyle support. So don't feel like you have to take copious notes right now. Just listen and you can go back and review that. And we also will be including the Sleepwise supplement stack that we'll be going into. So, okay, so you just talked about trouble falling asleep. And before I interrupted you, we're going to jump into trouble with people struggling to stay asleep. So let's go there next.
All right. So trouble staying asleep. This oftentimes, I would say, most of the people I consult with, I would say that this happens because of a blood sugar imbalance. So, middle of the night, you wake up 1 a.m., 2 a.m., your cortisol levels are low, your blood sugar levels drop. And this signals a spike in epinephrine to tell your liver to make more sugar. But with that spike in epinephrine, then you'll have a cortisol spike, and this actually wakes you up. And this is really interesting. So, this sometimes might mean that this could mean a couple different things, like eat some protein with a little bit of fat before you go to bed. Um, let's focus on your liver. Let's make sure your liver is really healthy and strong, since the liver is responsible for blood sugar regulation, and it can mobilize blood sugar when your blood sugar levels are low. Also, let's focus on your adrenal glands, and let's make sure your adrenal glands are not weak. There's different tests that you can take to measure your adrenal glands. I love the saliva test kits. You can test your cortisol levels 4 times a day, your DHEA levels, and other adrenal hormones, just to make sure that your adrenal glands are healthy.
Okay, so regarding those tests, I just want to let everyone know that on the checklist that they can download, we also will have those there with links on what they can buy if they want to do that. Not necessary unless we are trying to troubleshoot if it is adrenals and if you're trying to um decipher this complex web of what's causing you to have poor sleep.
Yeah. A couple other reasons for trouble staying asleep would be potentially low protein intake. Um, this could lead to blood sugar imbalances, which I just discussed. Alcohol. Alcohol sometimes can help you fall asleep fast, but generally speaking, people will have interrupted sleep. It's harder to get into a deep sleep, and they might experience nighttime wakefulness. Another reason why people might have trouble staying asleep could be parasites, especially around the full moon. I have a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I never sleep well during the full moon." Well, oftentimes the increased serotonin levels during this time actually stimulates parasite activity. So this is something super interesting. I love doing deep dives. I would say probably over 50% of people living in the United States has parasites and we don't even know it. Um, Mineral deficiencies, again, magnesium, iron, copper, um, vitamin deficiencies, vitamin A, B vitamins, different hormone imbalances, of course, like the thyroid gland, the adrenal glands, and also stress and medication. So there are some common causes that overlap between trouble falling asleep and trouble staying asleep, but are also some unique attributes to each category.
Okay, so if you were to like put together, because I noticed in the class that we put together the Sleepwise Ginger Sage SleepWise supplement stack, is that why you can, with confidence, like put together a supplement stack for people who are struggling to sleep and knowing that hey, most of you probably need this generic recommendation?
Definitely. So I'm going to offer a generic recommendation to make sure that everybody is supporting their adrenal glands, supporting their livers, supporting their stress levels, and also supporting their gut and their micronutrient levels. Of course, everybody's different. Everybody has unique situations. So that we do have the opportunity to work closer with us and do a deep dive if you need extra support.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. So, like, if I'm feel fine, I'm just not sleeping. You're like, yeah, well, you may think you're fine, but there is maybe something going on at the mineral level, and so definitely start taking these supplements. Is there any harm in taking these supplements? If I'm like, hey, lady, I just want to sleep. I didn't want a bunch of supplements.
Well, I mean, our world is different right now than it was like 100 years ago. Our soils are depleted, even when we're eating full organic, like all organic foods, and grass-fed meats. Our soils are not rich like they were. So people's mineral levels have drastically fallen. In addition, the more stress we're under, the more we need extra minerals, the more we need adaptogens. And so no, I think that today, in this time that we're living in, it's a very good time to take extra supplements because you're just going to feel better. I mean, of course, there are some supplements that are not recommended for long term. But I'm going to go over all of these supplements are going to be safe to take long term, and we will guide you through all of this.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we've talked about people that have trouble falling asleep. We've talked now about people that have trouble staying asleep. And that third category that you mentioned, that just, not feeling like they get the restorative sleep. Is there anything you want to say about that?
I would say a lot of the things that we talked about in trouble staying asleep would be the same for that category. For instance, the person who wakes up at 1 or 2 in the morning doesn't necessarily feel hungry, but they wake up because they have this low blood sugar, they have an epinephrine and cortisol release, and all of a sudden they're awake and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm just going to watch a movie or something," because they don't really know what their body needs. They might drift back in, but you're still dealing with the blood sugar regulation, so it's still going to be difficult to stay asleep, and you might just not feel like you sleep deep at all.
I think that's a
And that's
good point because, and sorry, I wanted to call out, we just hear insomnia. I think we toss it around. It's like, oh, I have insomnia. I don't think that's helpful in helping us get to the root of the problem because we think, when I hear insomnia, I think, oh, it's a disease. I can't help it. I have it. Where it's like, I just heard you say that there is a reason the body woke up at 2 o'clock. And it's not insomnia. It's your freaking blood sugar's out of whack. And there's these things that are going on. And we go maybe to other types of, I don't want to say the medical establishment or whatever, but they want to give us a sleeping pill to deal with. It's like a band-aid. We're not getting to that root cause of what is actually causing me to wake up. Something so simple as I need to eat some protein and fat before I go to bed, and this would resolve. It's a super empowering, and it's frustrating to hear that we aren't informed about these things, but it's very I really appreciate learning about that because I think that's super powerful.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I have people that will wake up in the middle of the night from low blood sugar, and I'll just tell them like, "Listen, I know we're not supposed to eat right before we go to bed or while we're sleeping, basically. It's not good for our digestive system, but sleep is at the highest level of importance." So I'm like, "Go take a bite of cottage cheese or a bite of chicken or, something." And most of the time, that person's able to fall back asleep and get back into a deep sleep.
Oh, cool. All right.
All right. Well, while we're here, while we're talking about cortisol and stress and the adrenal glands, this will be part of our supplement stack. And I just want to talk about adaptogens a little bit because adaptogens, I mean, I am in love with the adaptogen class of herbs and medicinal mushrooms. And what adaptogens do is that they help your body adapt. They help your body adapt to stress. They help your body stay in homeostasis. So basically, I think of adaptogen as being like a thermostat. So it's working behind the scenes to make sure everything stays exactly where it's supposed to be. So if the temperature is too high, then the thermostat will signal, and then the temperature is decreased. If it's too low, the thermostat will signal and the temperature is increased. That's how adaptogens work. They keep our body in homeostasis. So if you take an herb like ashwagandha, for instance, ashwagandha is a very important Ayurvedic herb, and it works behind the scenes to keep your body in balance. So it supports the adrenal glands. It supports a healthy response to stress. It supports a healthy cortisol pattern, that healthy diurnal cortisol pattern, because we need cortisol. Without cortisol, we can't live, we can't survive. Um, Too high, too low, that's when we start having problems. Ashwagandha is beautiful for this. Ashwagandha has so many studies around sleep and supporting and promoting a good night's sleep, but at the same time, ashwagandha gives you energy during the day, and it stops like that afternoon crash, and it helps you focus, and it helps with libido and immune system function. And so adaptogens are just so miraculous, because when you talk about like pharmacology and you're like, wait, it doesn't make sense that you can take one thing that will help you sleep at night, but give you energy during the day. And that's why adaptogens are just so phenomenal. Ashwagandha is definitely one of my favorite. It's definitely listed as part of the sleep stack, but there's other ones. There's holy basil, which is known as Tulsi, and this is a sacred herb in India. So it's also a very important part of the Ayurvedic system. It is also an adaptogen, so it's balancing the body, but it really works to promote GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that is a relaxing neurotransmitter that helps us go to sleep. Love holy basil. And then as far as medicinal mushrooms go, reishi. Reishi is the most grounding of all medicinal mushrooms, and it is the mushroom most studied for sleep cycles. So these are all amazing things to include in your daily regimen. And another thing about adaptogens, they don't work well, they can you can feel something right away, but really adaptogens work over time. So when you're taking adaptogens, it's not like we're going to take it right before we go to bed and expect to fall asleep, because it's not going to work that way. Those are more like the nervine herbs or antispasmodic herbs that just like put you to sleep, adaptogens work just by balancing the body. So the more you take them, the more they work, and they're best taken over time.
Cool. I know you helped me with a formulation for some things I was struggling with, and ashwagandha was one of the adaptogens you recommended, along with some mushrooms. So I can speak to the efficacy of those adaptogens. So, and I had no clue about the power of them. So life changing is all I can say.
Life changing. I mean, ashwagandha saved my life. I have to say, when I was 27 and I was having panic attacks and anxiety, and I'd love to go into this more in the stress class, but I always say ashwagandha really did save my life like 21 years ago.
That's amazing. I just love it because so many people that get in these health cycle struggles, they start to lose hope. And so just hearing what you're teaching today is just to know that there is hope and there's healing and that the body wants to be well, the body wants to be in balance, and we can help it get there. So that's just wonderful news. All right. So we've talked about um, the intricacies of sleep. We've talked about the benefits of sleep. We start talking about the supplements. Is there anything else you want to touch on about sleep and maybe lifestyle? I think because one is okay. You give me this supplement stack, and I take them all. All my sleep problems gonna go away. What else is going on?
Well, I always tell people, yeah, sometimes ashwagandha can just change your life completely, as can other supplements. But really, taking one single pill and not making any other changes in your life, generally speaking, isn't the way to move forward from a holistic standpoint. You want to look at the body as a whole. Your lifestyle is really important, especially when it comes to sleeping. So I would love to go into some lifestyle support ideas, and then we can go back into a few other supplements that are going to be listed in our supplement stack.
Yeah, let's do that because I think we'll go through the supplement stack all in one shot as a recap and give them the dosing recommendations as well as the brand supplements that we recommend. Because as you and I both know, all supplements are not created equal, and we need to be careful about and mindful of what we're putting in our bodies. There's a lot of bad actors in the space, and so we'll steer you in the right direction.
Definitely. All right, so some super effective lifestyle recommendations would be number 1, create a comfortable sleeping space. Keep the room temperature down. I think between 60 to 68 degrees is the best temperature to actually get into a deep sleep for your body to release melatonin. Um, and this tells your body it's time to wind down.
How do
Um,
you deal with this when you have 2 partners? Like, in somebody wants it hot, somebody wants it cold, or you know what I mean? Like, typically with men and women, the man will run hotter than the woman, or if the woman's in like menopause or hot flashes, like any tips there?
I would say keep the temperature down. Compromise somewhere in there, maybe 65 degrees. And if somebody is cold when they go to sleep, put on a sweatshirt or an extra cover because you can always cover up more. And then the other person, because you can't really be too hot when you're sleeping, you will not fall into a deep sleep if you're too hot.
This is something I can do better. My house is always at 74 because I hate being cold, and I do wake up hot. So I am going to try this.
Yes, I tend to my body temperature naturally cools down in the nighttime. And so like before bed, I'll be a little cooler and I'll put like a sweatshirt on, but then I'll always wake up hot. So and I think it's very natural for your body temperature to cool down before you go to bed.
You were starting to explain that scientifically. I would like to understand better. Why are we cold? Why do we want to be cold when we sleep? And why is that foster better sleep?
Yeah, it just signals the release of melatonin. So basically tells your body it's time to wind down. It's kind of that natural instinct that tells the body that you're ready to sleep.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. It's also really interesting, on my farm in North Carolina during the wintertime, the heat, like, barely works. It literally, like, only heats the kitchen. And so I would be wearing, like, 4 layers, and it would be, like, 7 o'clock, and I wouldn't wanna do anything but just go to bed because I was too cold.
That's true.
So,
When you
I found
cold, you
that
fall asleep. Like that's what you do. You die and you fall asleep. You lay down in the snow.
yeah, yeah, we hibernate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I
Um
like it.
Yeah, so another is, blackout curtains. You don't wanna be exposed to any light because that also disrupts melatonin. Um, Definitely, we already talked about eating a little protein before bed. Um, Turning your Wi-Fi routers off, incredibly important. We are exposed to way too much unnatural, like, microwave radiation, basically ionizing EMFs. Um they have their high frequency EMFs and we're exposed to it during like our cell phones, our computers, our Wi-Fi routers. And it definitely changes the calcium channels. So it overstimulates the calcium channels and too much calcium can actually flood into the cells. Um, Basically that's not good for us. Our sleep can be interrupted. We might have more inflammation and more problems falling asleep. And this can also decrease magnesium levels. So, one of the ways, we already talked about magnesium and how important it is. But another one of the reasons why magnesium is so important, I would always take magnesium twice a day, is because it actually will block the EMF's effects on the calcium channels and it'll stop all this calcium from flooding into the cells. Calcium regulates cell permeability and there's other minerals, enzymes and proteins that need to get in the cells and it just changes the way the cell works when we have too much calcium in our cells and magnesium is one of those things that can mitigate the problem.
Wow. And is it any form of magnesium? Because there's like citrate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's so many different forms of magnesium. There's a couple that I love. I love magnesium glycinate. That's going to be in the supplement stack. I like magnesium bisglycinate. And I also like magnesium threonate. So those are all really great ones. Magnesium threonate has a lot of great studies around crossing the blood brain barrier. Magnesium glycinate and bisglycinate are really well tolerated, well absorbed, very effective, and they don't cause any digestive discomfort, which is really important because certain magnesiums like magnesium citrate, malate, things like that can actually cause, some loose stool, some diarrhea, and we're not taking magnesium because we wanna go to the bathroom. We're taking magnesium because of the thousands of things that magnesium is needed for in the body.
Got it. Okay. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, movement during the day, really important. Also, what's really important is first morning light. First morning sunlight is super important. So don't look at your phone when you first wake up. Walk outside, look at the light because that supports your circadian rhythm. To avoid blue light or use blue light blockers, look especially late at night. Like, do not look at your screens. Don't look at your computer, your phone, your tablets late at night because it also will block the release of melatonin.
That's why I put my blue light on right now. It's not nighttime, but I just realized I've been looking at the screen a lot. So blue lights are on. Blue light
That's
blockers.
great. That's great. And even wearing so many of us work remote and we're on our computer for way too many hours during the day. Wearing blue light blocking glasses throughout the day actually helps support your diurnal cortisol pattern and your circadian rhythm.
Okay. Do I wear 'em?
Another thing is movement during the day. You don't need to go, do whatever makes you happy, but move your body, whether it's yoga, whether it's running, walking, hiking, gardening, all of this stuff helps lead to healthy circadian rhythm.
Is there more about that? Because we hear, I mean, if I were to take all my supplements and I was to block my blue light, but I don't have a healthy exercise and nutrition, like, is it, are we just putting lipstick on a pig at that point?
I mean, you're definitely going to get some benefits, but yeah, in order to get all benefits, like the holistic approach that we were talking about, you need to move your body during the day, definitely. Um, yeah, so that's a great question. Another, I was going to mention two other things. Grounding. Grounding is so important. Grounding basically means like putting our feet or our body in direct contact with the earth. So it's kind of like barefoot walking, laying on the ground, or you can even use a grounding mat when you go to bed. And we'll actually include a grounding mat option if you want to add this to your regimen.
Okay, well,
Um,
and this
the
feels a little woo woo to me. So, can you tell me, like, scientifically, is this like woo woo or is this for real?
So honestly, there's multiple studies on grounding, and it's actually shown to mobilize electrons to enter the body and neutralize free radicals because electrons are able to neutralize free radicals. So there's a lot of actual studies around it. Um, look at the past; like we've always been a part of the earth, and now we're constantly separating ourselves from the earth. We're not touching the soil anymore. We're wearing shoes that are insulated from the ground. So studies have shown that grounding can improve free radical damage, inflammation, even lower blood pressure, and improve sleep and pain.
Wow.
So it's
No,
pretty interesting.
I think there's something to it. My neighbor was in the garden every day and she lived to like 105 and was one of the happiest people I've ever seen. I was like, there's something about being in the earth. She's got it down.
100%. She's probably all also like not on her screen a lot and she's exposed to natural light. All those things help. Um, One other thing that I wanted to mention that really helps me is invest in good quality sheet. I actually have organic bamboo sheets. They feel amazing and I can feel good about them because we're laying on our beds for 7, 8 hours, maybe more every night. And our skin is our largest absorption organ. So please, another thing that you can do for your body is make sure what you are exposing your skin to is good quality. And I definitely like I would recommend everybody get an organic mattress if possible. I know they're a little bit expensive, but I think as technology I guess technology can catch up with this trend, we'll probably be able to see the price go down a little bit.
Yeah, and we have links to these in our documents if you're interested as well. Ones that we the Ginger Sage endorsement, the ones that we recommend.
Definitely, definitely. And then, another super easy thing is just basically decreasing caffeine and alcohol. We talked a little bit about that. Caffeine is overstimulating to the adrenal glands, and it's very sympathetic, and it's kind of like that fight or flight. And it can be hard to calm down, even if you're just having a couple cups of coffee during the day. Another thing, and we're going to go into this a little more when we talk about nutrition, is the more spikes in your sympathetic nervous system. So, like the epinephrine and cortisol spikes, like every time you have low blood sugar or maybe consume too much coffee and you're jittery, those spikes disrupt your diurnal cortisol pattern and your circadian rhythm. So, we want to avoid those things from happening. So, it's best to not consume coffee alone on an empty stomach in a fasting state. I know a lot of people love to fast, drink coffee, work out, but all of that stuff is putting extra stress on the body. So I'm a big advocate of eating a little bit before your first cup of coffee. You know, just like even like a hard boiled egg, something super simple. And then in your coffee, you could add some, I don't know, bone broth collagen or regular collagen. You can add um, some adaptogenic like mushrooms. Like I love adding reishi to my coffee. And basically those things will help balance you and mitigate the extra nervous system stress that can occur from coffee consumption.
Cool. So let's jump in now to the supplement stack, the Ginger Sage SleepWise and supplement stack, and what we recommend. I mean, we've kind of talked about it throughout, and let's just kind of bring it all together here.
All right. So, daily supplements to support sleep. First of all, liver support. These are herbs like milk thistle, dandelion root, burdock root. Again, just to refresh, the liver plays a really essential role in blood sugar regulation. And this is so important for one to be able to stay asleep. Another supplement is probiotics. So serotonin and GABA are made in the gut. So probiotics really truly support these neurotransmitters and hormones to be produced. And these really are important to support the sleep wake cycles.
Do you know what? I'm going to interrupt you right there because I realized we didn't talk about GABA as much as you know so much about GABA and how that was news to me. Do you mind just elaborating on why a supplement to support that is important?
Yeah, yeah. So GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And so it's really it's part of the sleep wake cycle, and GABA is needed in order to get into a deep sleep. So basically there's more stimulatory neurotransmitters, but GABA is more of an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So, serotonin as well, the gut makes a large amount of our neurotransmitters. And that's why probiotics and the health of the gut are so important when you're talking about sleep or stress.
That is something that I learned from you. I had no idea that the gut plays a role in sleep. And mind blowing. So,
It's mind blowing. And, we can go into the vagus nerve. as well, in the future. Really the longest nerve in the body, and it like links the gut and the brain together, and it's fascinating.
I have heard a
Um
lot about the microbiome. You hear that thrown around a lot, and it's kind of like all the rage. And so to hear someone like you that's so well versed in science to say that, yeah, this is legit, I want to learn more about that.
yeah, it's legit. Yeah, so okay, some other things that are really helpful are B vitamins. B vitamins help your body produce serotonin and melatonin, and B vitamins are really supportive to the adrenal glands. When you're supporting the adrenal glands, you're supporting your diurnal cortisol pattern, and you're also supporting your circadian rhythm. Another one is trace minerals. So again, our bodies run on enzymes, around 9,000 of, and minerals serve as the cofactors for each of these reactions. Minerals really do run the show in the body. Another supplement another supplement that we feel is very valuable is cod liver oil. Now, you don't need to take cod liver oil every day, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. Cod liver oil is a really rich source of natural vitamin A and vitamin D. So, vitamin A is involved in the circadian rhythm, and vitamin D is involved in the pathways of melatonin production. Magnesium, of course, we talked a lot about magnesium. It soothes the nervous system, relaxes the central nervous system. Magnesium is necessary for ATP and thousands of other reactions that happen within the body. Magnesium is a common deficiency today in the United States just because of the depletion of our soils. And again, ATP, which is energy, is essential for sleep, and magnesium is essential for ATP synthesis. Some other daily supplements are the adaptogens that we talked about: ashwagandha, holy basil, also known as tulsi, reishi, the most grounding mushroom, the most studied mushroom for rest and relaxation. Another really important component of the reishi that is going to be in our supplement stack is, mushrooms are what they eat. And it's really important to get reishi and all mushrooms that are actually grown the way mushrooms are intended to be grown, like on wood, for instance. Some of these manufacturers now will grow mushrooms on grain, just a bunch of grain. And the active constituents in mushrooms are the beta glucans and the different triterpenes. They're much lower when you are having mushrooms that are grown on grain versus mushrooms that are grown on wood. And it's also important that you are taking the fruiting body of the mushroom, which is the actual like mushroom top itself, not just the mycelial mass. And it's also really important that you're extracting in like a dual extraction. So both alcohol and hot water, so you can extract all of the necessary constituents. So we will have this listed and the good brands to take reishi in our Sleepwise stack.
Yep. And this is what I was talking about why I only take the supplements that Ginger Sage recommends. And it's because I know you've done the research and it's like, okay, legit, I'll take it.
Yeah. Um, there's there's a couple other really great ones that help promote sleep. Saffron extract. This is an ancient spice. 14 milligrams. That's such a tiny dose. 14 milligrams of saffron taken twice daily for 28 days equals major improvement in promoting sound sleep. Saffron is another one. It's very important to get a good brand so that the saffron is not um,
Adulterated.
compromised.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would
Yeah.
say
Well,
adulterated.
saffron, saffron is such an expensive spice. So it's really important to get a good brand so that you make sure that your saffron is not compromised because of the high price. There's people who are cutting saffron with other cheaper ingredients, and then they're not going to be as effective.
Yeah, it's like buying drugs that are laced with like fentanyl. Not good.
Not good. Um, a couple other, really great nighttime herbs. And these are herbs that are not necessarily adaptogens. You don't need to take them every day for a month or so to see results. These are called nervines, and some of them also fall into the antispasmodic herbal category. And these are things that will relax you once you consume them. So some of them would be lemon balm. Lemon balm is known as the calming herb. It's amazing at increasing rest and relaxation and helping to support sleep cycle. Passion flower. I love passion flower. It is great for anxiety, rest and relaxation. It increases GABA levels. Another herb would be skullcap. I love consuming skullcap tea before I go to bed. It also, in addition to helping to support sleep cycles, it also helps to reduce inflammation and relieve spasms in the body. And I would say my most favorite nighttime nervine herb is valerian root. Now, valerian root smells terrible. It smells like a dirty sock, but it is so effective at calming and it has a restorative effect on the central nervous system. It increases GABA. It has been used since around the second century AD. So tried and true and proven. The first time I ever had tea, it was with valerian in it. I had no idea I was drinking valerian, and I thought it was just like a chamomile relaxing tea. It had valerian in it. I walked to the grocery store, and I was literally standing in the grocery store aisle, and I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep right now. What did I just consume? And I realized it was valerian. So you don't want to take valerian um, if you're gonna go somewhere, take valerian maybe 30 minutes before you go to bed because it's very effective at helping you get to sleep, especially when you really need extra support.
I really want
Um,
to try valerian now. One thing I haven't heard you mention, and maybe you're getting to it, is melatonin. That's what everyone always takes when they can't sleep. They take melatonin. Are we getting there or?
I mean, melatonin's a little bit controversial. I would say that melatonin has a lot of benefits. It's got a lot of benefits as far as decreasing inflammation in the body and also for support when you're sick, when you have a respiratory virus going on. And melatonin can work for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. I know a lot of holistic cancer protocols include melatonin, probably just because it decreases lipid peroxidase and different inflammatory pathways in the body. But I don't always use melatonin for sleep because when you're taking melatonin, you're taking like hundreds of times more than the amount of the melatonin that the body actually makes. So I prefer to use herbs that just gently, help promote our circadian rhythms, which would help the body naturally produce melatonin.
So is melatonin? I guess I don't know what it is. It's not an herb or it's a supplement. What are they? Is it man made to make a melatonin supplement?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be man-made, but it's also made in our bodies, in our pineal glands. So, and honestly, there is a time and a place for melatonin, and if somebody's having a lot of trouble sleeping and the other things might not be working, I would say go for it. Try melatonin. Sometimes it can make you groggy the next day. Sometimes you might feel a little down. Um, there's nothing wrong with it, but I prefer to try the other ways first.
Cool. Okay. I always thought melatonin was natural, and I'm like,
I I mean, it is natural. I mean, our bodies make it naturally.
yeah.
So we want, to promote and support our natural melatonin
But
cycles.
where are they getting the melatonin? They're sucking it out of human individuals and putting.
No, 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 no. It's most likely made from a microbial fermentation process when you get the actual melatonin supplement. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of supplements, a lot of like different supplements are made via using microbial fermentation. There is a really amazing product. It's a golden milk and it is a relaxing turmeric ginger tea with reishi lemon balm and passion flower. And it's an amazing product to consume before bed. And that will be listed in part of our supplement stack for you. Um, taking amino acids for sleep is very, very helpful as well. So GABA, we talked a little bit about GABA. It's the primary inhibitor neurotransmitter of the central nervous system. So GABA can definitely help with relaxation and with shortening the time it takes to fall asleep. We've got L-theanine, which is an amino acid that was first discovered in green tea. It really works well with GABA and other amino acids to support proper neurotransmitter release of serotonin and dopamine. So it can reduce the sleep latency and improve the duration of sleep. GABA, L-theanine, and glycine are three amino acids that just work really great in synergy with one another. So glycine is another inhibitory neurotransmitter. It promotes sleep. It can actually lower the body's temperature, which will help you fall asleep, stay asleep. It can reduce fatigue and sleepiness in people also who are experiencing sleep deprivation. And it actually helps increase serotonin levels and helps support a healthy circadian rhythm. So, it's always great to take, amino acids work really well being balanced together. So, if you're going to isolate just a couple of amino acids, I would say it's best to not be taken every single night when you're just isolating a few. But it's okay to take these amino acids every day, especially when you're combining that with like a balanced amino acid stack. And we will include that in our SleepWise supplement stack for you.
Awesome. That was so helpful to go through that. So remember in the members area, just download the SageWise supplement stack, SleepWise supplement stack. In there, we have the recommended brands, the dosing, and do I need to worry about overdosing on this, right? We've put in there safe. It's safe to take no matter what else you've got going on. Or is there anything you want to caveat about this SleepWise supplement stack?
So that's such a great question. If you are on medications, um, certain medications will interact with herbs.
Hmm.
So it is really if you're working with a holistic health practitioner or if you want to work deeper with us, it would be really helpful. Um, Especially if you're taking multiple medications. If you're taking maybe something for your thyroid, there's really no interactions with any of these herbs with your thyroid medication. But certain other medications like beta blockers or, maybe cholesterol medications, there might be some pathway. Some of these herbs might share the same pathways as some of these medications. So we really need to talk further before adding herbs to your protocol.
If you already know, like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot I would love to meet with a ginger wise sleep expert consultant, then we have the intake form where we ask you questions about your medical history, your personal history, lifestyle support. Also, if you have any labs, we'll review those. And then what we will do is we will customize your supplement stack and you can ask and get all of those concerns and questions taken care of. And it's actually, I think, a steal of a deal. That's just you can learn more about it in the course members area and just go ahead and upgrade. And with everything that we do, we stand behind it 100%. We guarantee you get the results, you get the support, or else we don't want your money. We want to help you. Okay, with that being said, so that's great, super helpful on the supplement stack. Let's talk about a little more lifestyle support. I think we wanted to just touch on briefly the nutrition. And I know that the total transformation package even includes nutrition plans. You are a nutritionist as well.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just gonna briefly we touched on a little bit of this because this will be on part of the guide that you get after this. But basically protein in the morning. Protein in the morning is the most significant way to ensure adequate blood sugar regulation throughout the day and throughout the night. So protein in the morning, like for example, maybe an omelet made with pastured eggs, with veggies. Add some fruit and coffee after you've had your protein. And within the coffee, you can add some organic collagen or some bone broth protein and different adaptogen to help with any of the fight or flight sympathetic overstimulation. Tips: eat when you're hungry. Every time you have a low blood sugar, like, you have like the sympathetic stimulation from the low blood sugar, you increase your cortisol levels and you disrupt your metabolism and your diurnal cortisol pattern and your circadian rhythm. Different snack ideas would be fruits, veggies, pair with some, good fat and protein, maybe some real cultured cottage cheese, sardines, avocados, oysters. Oysters are like the most perfect source of zinc and copper and minerals. Maybe a Paleo Valley meat stick, any of those things to just make sure that you keep your blood sugar stable and that you keep nourished throughout the day. We've got some great lunch and dinner ideas. A great smoothie idea might be some raw goat's milk. Of course, if you can handle dairy, not everybody can handle dairy depending on the state of your gut microbiome, but maybe add some frozen fruit, some frozen beef liver. I know that sounds terrible, but you won't even taste it. Maybe some Greek yogurt, maybe some grass fed whey or some bone broth protein, add some superfoods, bee pollen.
So awesome. We've gone through the supplement stack. We've got the lifestyle support. So wrapping it all up, next steps, action. What I've just sat through the class. I've got the checklist. I'm going through. I know some of the changes I can make with my lifestyle. I know the supplement stack. Um, what else? Like, what are my next steps? What do you recommend to do first so I can start sleeping better starting tonight?
Order those supplements, maybe every day. Start, just maybe add one of those lifestyle tips in every day, or maybe even just one every week. We don't need to be perfect. As long as you're making little changes, you will definitely experience gains.
Okay. And how long before I notice it's working? Because like if I start taking it and that night I don't sleep, is there an adapting period? Like would you say within 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Help me set my expectations, manage my expectations so I'm not disappointed.
So, because there's adaptogens in this stack of supplements, give it a month. Take these adaptogens every day for a month. You'll take the nervines, which are the specific like nighttime herbs. You'll take them when you need them, and you will definitely notice a difference within them.
Okay. So I will, with my Sleepwise Essentials pack, I've got the course, I've got my supplement stack, and some of the lifetime support. I also have 30 days of the free group coaching where you have the 2 monthly group coaching calls that I can join and ask any questions. I should have noticed results before that, right? Is what I'm hearing. Okay. And
Yes,
if not, I might have underlying complications. I might need some customization. And that's when it would make sense to do the essentials package where you can review and I can do the intake form and you can give me more hand holding. Does that sound about right?
definitely. Maybe there's some adrenal imbalances, some thyroid imbalances, some, mineral deficiencies, some heavy metal, some other things that we need to dive deeper into in
Okay.
order to experience, wholeness.
Yeah. And so for all of those who've been with us today, I want you to know if you are in any of the situations that we talked about where you have underlying medical complications or medications, we both definitely recommend that you upgrade to the essentials pack so you can do an intake form and we can personally review your information and give you a customized supplement stack. For the rest of you that are like, great, this sounds awesome. You've got your supplement stack, try it, dive in, start taking the supplements, making the lifestyle adjustments, and we should be getting results and we can help troubleshoot with you there. And hopefully it's just a good night's rest and you're off to dreamland.
And everything else is going to start falling into place when you start sleeping well.
That is amen, sister. Amen.